Hi there, Natalie with you today with a new process video for Altenew. And today I want to share with you how a little bit of ink and how a little bit of texture can make the inspiring quote stamp set shine in your next memory keeping layer. So see you in a bit. Welcome back. In today's project, I want to show you how a little bit of texture and color can make this stamp set. This is the new Inspiring Quotes stamp set shine in your layout. And this stamp set is beautiful, a very simple design, but very detailed and with some of the most beautiful sentiments that are perfect for your cards, but also for your layouts. I've already created one of my layouts for the block hop, and I decided to use the flowers to create sort of a wreath for my layout. So this time I want to focus on the leaves and the little, there's a little branch that comes in the stamp set to create my layout. So I've already cut my paper to fit into my little album. So they are 5 inches in width by 8.5 inches in height. Since I have 2, then I have 10 inches white space, but I've already cut in half so I have the allowance for the binding in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start blending ink at the top left corner of the layout and also at the bottom right corner of the layout. These are the areas where I'm going to focus the stamping on. And my idea is I want to create, when you see a tornado, there's a circular motion. I want to bring sort of that movement onto my page. For that, I am creating these little corners of color and hoping that it becomes a little circle. And I am going to give you that idea. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. And I'm starting, like I said, with a little bit of ink blending. I am using inks from the Fall Harvest stamp set and also from the new ink set. And also from the new ink set, this is called Nature's Wonders, and it's beautiful tones of greens, more on the ochre side, so they are actually perfect to match with the fall colors. And the layout that I'm creating today, I'm gonna do all about gratitude. When I created the projects, I was working on my gratitude journal, so it's all about gratitude and being thankful. So because it's the fall here in Canada, I decided to actually use the colors. So I'm using my small ink blending tool from Altenew, and I'm going to use pretty much all the colors in the ink set. And they're not going to go deep. I don't want to go into a deep tone of the colors. I just want a light application, but I want to have a nice mixture of all the colors. I am going to add my ink to the top left corner of my layout and also to the right bottom corner of it. But I'm going to make sure that I keep the pages together so that my ink flows from one side onto the other side of the layer. Even though my little booklet or my little book, actually my album, has a spine and you actually get, there's rings in it, I still want to make sure that the layout has a continuous look. So I'm making sure to keep the 2 pages together, and when I add my ink that I extend it through the seam. And again, you're going to see that I'm just working my ink. I'm making sure that I have a paper behind my cardstock, and I'm just adding the ink from outside of the cardstock so that any ink that I collect when I go on the ink pad, you know how you have the accumulation at the tips of the bristles, I kind of blot that out so I don't get those harsh lines on my application in the cardstock. So I'm just gonna continue, and I'm gonna take it off camera so you can see how I ink blend, but I'm gonna put some music and I'll be back in a bit. And I'm back. All the ink has already been blended on my background. I am actually setting it aside to dry for a bit. So what I'm doing right now is I'm using some anti-static powder just to prep the area. My idea is I want to use, like I said before, the leaves and the little branches that come in the stamp set just to create the flurry of leaves, kind of a circular motion. And the way to add texture is going to be a very monochromatic layout is through, in this case, embossing. So I'm pulling out my little clear embossing ink from Altenew, and I'm also going to bring crisp antique gold embossing powder to create the leaves. So I'm starting with just stamping the leaves. I am going to make sure that they stay pretty much in the area where I added the ink. A few of them are going to come off that area just to help me create that circular motion, that idea that they're flying in and out of the paper at the corners. So I'm just going to continue stamping, and I'm going to combine, like I said, the single leaf with the two that comes together. And super simple. Again, I'm going to make sure that when I hit the center of my layout that I keep the seams, or keep them at the same height or the same level. So when I stamp the leaves, they continue the flow. There's not a division. So I want to make sure that the layout flows nicely from one side to the other one. And this is, like I said, very easy. There's very a few things that you can do to a monochromatic layout just to make it stand out. And embossing is just a way of adding texture and emphasizing something. So I'm going to do that right now. And let me know if you like monochromatic layouts. Leave me a comment. I would like to know what you think. So like I said, I'm just using crisp antique gold embossing powder from Altenew to create my leaves. So I'm just going to hit it on my paper, and I'm just going to heat it with my gun, make sure that it actually, gets all shiny and has that texture. And the cardstock that I'm using for my background is actually from Vicky Boutin's collection, and it's really heavy. So go ahead for a thick cardstock, like a heavy cardstock. So you're gonna see when I emboss, none of it curls or buckles, and I have a straight surface to work with. I like working to emboss, especially with a Nina Solar Crest white cardstock, 110 pounds. And I really enjoy working my mixed media in this 140 pounds and heavier. So while my embossing powder completely cools off and sets, I went at a camera, and I already had the pictures of my three kids with the dog. I just backed it with a piece of vellum. I just like the translucency, the little separation it creates. And then I backed it again with a piece of paper from the Reflections collection. Now what I did also is I'm going to use the darkest ink from the Nature's Wonder ink set, and the name of the ink is Mangrove Root. And with that, I'm going to stamp the sentiments. I stamped it in little pieces of white cardstock. I want to create like a separation between the background and the look of the stamp. So I just stamp one that says, life is too, doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. That's going to be the sentiment in my pictures. And then to stamp my title, I'm actually going to bring the Paint a Flower Poppy stamp. And there's a sentiment that says, so grateful for you. And like I said, this is just happening in the time where we're working on Thanksgiving for my documenting. And actually here in Toronto, we're back in quarantine. So we're inside the house all the time. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to write my lines with journal. Now, before I write them, I realized that I need to add more color to the leaves. So my choice, I'm going to bring the watercolor pencils from Altenew. And these are the Woodless watercolor pencils. It's just a new release. And these are beautiful to work with. I love them. I think I've used them pretty much in most of my layouts lately. And I love working with watercolors. I had a few before, but the ones from Altenew are just so easy and so creamy, so easy to work with. I know they were out of stock and they're restocked, but make sure you get them if you can afford them. Honestly, they work on any surface. You're going to see right now. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to accent the leaves. And for that, I'm going to use two colors of the watercolor pencils. I'm using yellow ochre, and the green one that I'm using is moss. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to color the base of the leaf. I'm just going to add the lines of watercolor pencil there. And I'm going to take it off camera because it took a while. And then I'm going to come in with the fine Altenew water brush. And all I'm going to do is just give it some water and just kind of dilute the pigment in this case and just paint the leaves. And you're going to see that I have a piece of, this is just cloth that I have wet, that it's going to help me clean out my brush. I want to make sure that I don't leave those harsh lines. And all I'm doing is just giving some water and then just moving the pigment. It dilutes. These watercolor pencils are beautiful. Again, if you have, if you try them If you haven't tried them, if you can afford to get them, go ahead and get them. They're beautiful to work with. They're easy to work with. They go nice dry. They go beautifully wet. Very creamy, very smooth application. They work great on watercolor paper. They work great on cardstock. Just amazing. I cannot rave enough. As always tell you, if you have any concerns or any questions, do not hesitate to leave a comment. I would love to know what you think. Now, another thing you're going to see that I keep again, I'm following the same idea that I did with the ink blending and with the embossing, is I'm going to make sure that I put the two sides of the layout together when it comes to just coloring those center leaves. I want to continue the look that it flows nicely from one side to the other one. I don't want to have the harsh division. So for that, I'm just going to make sure that I join the two sides and I stretch the water. And again, took a little bit of time just to make sure that, I dilute the ink. Nothing, I didn't go artistic on it. I just wanted to add that extra color and make sure the leaves pop. You're going to see that I'm going to keep my layout pretty simple. I want the leaves to do the work for me, and they're actually doing the work for me. All I'm doing is I'm just adding some sentiments from the same stamp set. This is the Inspirational Quotes stamp set, and I'm using Mangrove Root, that's the ink, to stamp it. And just to help me create a circular motion of the leaves flying, I'm gonna add actually a few drops of metallic ink spray. This is the antique gold one, just around the leaves, and you're gonna see that I'm just kind of following the circular motion. That is all it's gonna take. Pretty simple. I love the monochromatic approach. Just the fact that I have that embossing, it just makes the leaves stand out. And then by adding the little bit of the watercolor pencil, it just creates that definition, brings them out. You add the texture, you add the color, and this is a monochromatic layout. I just love how this it turned out. Make sure you go on to the blog to check the two other projects that I created with the Inspirational Quotes stamp set. And thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you soon.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.